While conservative leaders rally around faith and order at home, the new nuclear reality is threatening to engulf our vulnerable allies abroad. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into a convergence of some high-stakes global issues.
Yeah, three big ones coming together.
Exactly. We're looking at the intense political mobilization of the American conservative movement right now. Then there's this gaping security vulnerability, maybe even catastrophic, with a supposedly neutral ally in Europe, Ireland.
Right, the neutrality question.
And finally, Russia's formal shift. They've adopted a much more aggressive nuclear posture.
And our sources today are pretty significant, wouldn't you say? We've got notes from that huge political memorial event.
And Charlie Kirk Memorial, yeah. Massive turnout.
Right. And intelligence reports, too, from think tanks talking about Europe's, its soft underbelly. Plus some critical analysis of Russia's newest military doctrine. It's quite a mix.
So our mission today is really to synthesize all this for you. We need to understand why exactly a defense failure in a small country like Ireland creates this immediate systemic risk for the whole Western alliance.
And how a conservative push for domestic order we mentioned is framing the response to this, this rising global danger.
Okay, let's unpack that domestic foundation first. The backdrop here is that memorial for Charlie Kirk. It wasn't just a funeral, was it?
Not at all. Tens of thousands showed up. It was absolutely a political event, a real show of force for the conservative right.
And the themes coming out of it.
Well, what's fascinating is how speakers used it, not just grieving, but setting an urgent political mandate, a call to action.
Like a mobilization.
Absolutely. Physical and rhetorical. Speakers, including the president, kept hammering this need to bring religion and God back to America.
Arguing what? That it's essential for survival.
Pretty much. The core argument was, a country can't survive without strong borders, law and order, and religion. It was presented as that fundamental.
And there was a heavy focus on the family unit too, right? Securing the future through tradition.
Definitely. Kirk's biggest cause was framed as reviving the American family. Speakers stressed that young conservatives must marry, have children, pass on their values.
So defining strength is internal, moral, social stability.
Exactly. And following that thread, President Trump used the platform to push a key domestic goal: radical law and order right now.
He promised to fix cities he called hellholes, like Chicago.
Yeah, and he directly linked it to what he called Kirk's last request: save Chicago from crime.
And how did he say he'd do that? Did he get specific?
He did. He didn't mince words. Vowed to potentially deploy, federal law enforcement or even the military to establish order where local government has supposedly failed.
Wow. So framing it as political combat.
Completely. A fight against the forces of darkness and evil, as they put it. Trump even alleged that the left celebrated Kirk's death, using the event to draw a really stark moral line against opponents.
So the clear priority is securing the home front first law, order, family before tackling external threats.
That seems to be the message. Get your own house in order first.
Okay, so that deep conservative focus on internal order and defensible borders. It leads us straight to the external crisis they're now highlighting.
The contradiction, you mean?
Well, yeah. Demanding strong borders at home, but pointing fingers at this huge security failure abroad. Ireland's pretense of neutrality, as the sources call it.
Right. And this is where we shift gears from domestic politics to, pretty high-stakes geopolitics. Policy Exchange warned about this neutrality creating a massive vulnerability.
A soft underbelly.
Exactly, that adversaries can exploit. They explicitly said Russia, China, and Iran could target the UK via the Irish backdoor. Ireland becomes the low-risk path to threaten NATO interests because it's supposedly neutral.
And the economic angle here is huge, right? This isn't just about warships.
Oh, absolutely central. Ireland is the European base for nearly all the tech titans: Google, Microsoft, Apple. The engine room of the Western digital economy sits there.
And the argument is Moscow would be less likely to mess with them if they were in a NATO country.
Precisely. Much more reluctant to sabotage these companies if they were based in, say, Germany or the UK, under that NATO umbrella.
So it's like non-kinetic warfare by proxy. Target assets in neutral Ireland, hit the West's economy, but lower the risk of immediate military comeback.
That seems to be the strategic calculation. And the threat isn't just digital, it's physical infrastructure too, those undersea cables.
Right. Russian ships suspected of mapping them, the ones carrying global internet traffic from those Irish data centers.
Yeah, creating what the reports call an acute maritime menace, putting the whole region's pipelines and networks at risk. It's serious.
So what is Ireland actually doing for its own defense here? The numbers. They're not great, are they?
Not great is an understatement. They're, well, embarrassing. The military is in poor shape. The naval service has a meager 8 ships total.
8 ships to cover all that coastline and infrastructure.
Well, compared to the U.S. Navy's 400 plus, yeah, and the Irish Air Corps, it has no defense capability of any significance. None.
Which just illustrates that reliance problem. Dublin depends almost entirely on the UK's RAF Typhoon jets to intercept threats in Irish airspace.
Which, as critics point out, kind of makes a mockery of the country's neutrality. How neutral are you if another country's military is patrolling your skies?
And this leads straight into that conservative critique about burden sharing or, well, freeloading, as the sources bluntly put it.
Yeah, the accusation is Ireland's just ridden NATO's coattails, benefiting from everyone else's defense spending. It's a home truth. Even the then Taoiseach, the Irish Prime Minister, apparently admitted was unsustainable.
But you have to ask, how truly neutral is Ireland anyway? Especially in Moscow's eyes.
That's the key point. Moscow sees the hypocrisy. Since the 90s, Ireland has let U.S. military planes use Shannon Airport all the time. It's a major logistics hub.
So Russia sees that as
offering assistance to the U.S. military. Plain and simple.
And in this climate, that perception makes Ireland
A potential legitimate target. From Moscow's perspective, if you're helping NATO logistically, you're not neutral. You're support base. You can't really have it both ways.
Okay, let's connect this vulnerability directly to the really big picture shift.
Yeah.
Russia's formal escalation of global risk. They're not just probing anymore.
No, they've fundamentally changed their nuclear policy. And this is causing a real split among conservative foreign policy thinkers on how the West should react.
Tell us about this new doctrine. It's NOV 2024 N degree 991.
That's the one, and it's the clearest signal yet of, well, lowered intent. It basically lowers the nuclear threshold significantly.
How so? What's the actual change?
The old 2020 doctrine required a threat to the very existence of the state to justify using nukes. A massive existential threat.
Okay, pretty high bar.
Very high. The revised one. Much more dangerous. It allows a nuclear response to conventional attacks that merely threaten the sovereignty or territorial integrity of Russia or Belarus.
Sovereignty or territorial integrity, that sounds broader.
Way broader. It's not just about total annihilation anymore. It could mean using nukes if someone challenges control over annexed land or hits critical infrastructure. It's a huge expansion of what they consider a trigger.
And there's a specific clause about coalitions, right? Directly implicating NATO.
Paragraph 10, it says aggression by any state in a military coalition, and they clearly mirror NATO against Russia, is seen as aggression by the whole coalition, qualifying for retaliation.
So they're strategically weaponizing those weak links, like Ireland, potentially. An attack through Ireland could be framed as a coalition attack.
That seems to be the implication, and they're amplifying this with propaganda. You have figures like Dmitry Kiselyov simulating a nuclear attack, turning the British Isles, including Ireland, into a radioactive desert.
Pure psychological warfare.
Aimed at scaring countries off, supporting NATO, forcing places like Ireland to stop offering even logistical help.
Okay, so we've got a nuclear superpower lowering the threshold, threatening allies, and the West. Well, it seems split on how to respond, especially within conservative circles.
Yeah. The sources show a deep disagreement. Two main camps, really.
Camp 1.
The pragmatic right. Think President Trump, Viktor Orban in Hungary. They argue for a negotiated end to the Ukraine conflict. They see continued escalation as just irrational.
Why? Because the risk is too high.
Exactly. The risk of continental annihilation from a nuclear exchange with Russia, the world's biggest nuclear power, is just too great to keep pushing. Rational statecraft means finding an off-ramp.
Okay, and the other side?
The pro-NATO conservatives, especially strong in the UK, they stress the very real threat from Putin. They're deeply frustrated by what they see as decades of serial underinvestment in defense.
And their solution?
Massive increases in military spending up to 4% of GDP, and putting huge pressure on countries like Ireland to end the charade of neutrality and start pulling their weight now.
So it seems pretty clear that the Western strategy of, continually testing Russia's red lines
has led directly to Putin doubling down, formalizing this dangerous new reality, and forcing this tough debate on conservatives. Is survival best found through pragmatic negotiation or through aggressive rearmament?
So we've really covered this dual push.
Yeah.
Internal strength, traditional order on one side.
And this rapidly rising external danger on the other, made worse by what some see as naive policies.
Right. The conservative narrative demands this secure nation strong values. But it's facing a world where these weak links, like Ireland's defenseless neutrality, are now explicitly factored into a nuclear superpower's aggressive new doctrine.
And if we tie this back to the bigger picture, that Russian doctrine...
Its danger lies in the ambiguity.
Oh.
Using a term like sovereignty being threatened, that's elastic. It could easily be interpreted broadly, maybe even to include regime security. That is a terrifying thought. Okay, so here's our final provocative question for you to chew on. Could a big surge in domestic instability inside Russia, something the Kremlin decides is a Western-backed campaign for regime change, could that be officially conflated with external aggression under this new doctrine, essentially making internal politics potentially a trigger for nuclear escalation? It's a frightening possibility that ties the domestic political drivers and the global nuclear peril directly together. Something to think about.